session report. During closed session, the board voted to deny the unpaid leave request, PE-2122-7, was a 5-0 vote. During closed session, the board voted to deny the unpaid leave request, PE-2122-8, 5-0 vote. The board voted 5-0 to approve the settlement agreement for internal case number SPEL-2122-4 on terms involving a total of $72,000 through the 2025 school year. All right, item 6, patriotic exercise. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Adrian Charles Lester from Lincoln Elementary. Pop in there and let us know a little bit about yourself.
Hi, my name is Adrian Charles Lester. I'm a 5th grader at Lincoln Elementary. I have gone to Lincoln since kindergarten. I love being a part of the Burlingame school group. Some of my favorite things are walkathon, spring musical, and night games. I enjoy band and choir with Miss Prater and Mr. Sam. I love my teachers, Miss Pappish, Miss Semple, Miss Sloan, Miss Dare, Miss Glover, and Miss Glover. My teachers all tell me to be kind, be respectful, and be empathetic. These qualities really help me. I love being on the line. I wish all kids had the opportunity to go to such wonderful schools.
Thank you. Shall we all stand?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adrian, you want to come up and make your picture taken? One, two, three. We'll take one more. 1, 2, 3. And then we'll let things. Kids love you too. Oh, she adores me. All right, roll call. Dan?
Present.
Doug?
Present.
Elizabeth? Present. Lisa? Present. Lawrence? Present. Item 8, approval of today's agenda. Is there a motion to approve or make any amendments?
Will this be a time for
I think you could do that now or before. You can do it now.
Okay, I wanted to pull the item with the agenda.
Okay.
Clarify, you mean proposed board dates?
Yes, I'm looking down.
C, item C.
Yes, item C.
All right, we're gonna put item C at the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right before board requested.
All right, item CB is pulled from consent and will come after item 21. Again, anything else? Okay, is there a motion to approve the agenda with that amendment?
Make a motion to approve the agenda
With that amendment?
with that amendment. I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Item 9, approval of minutes from April 12, 2022 and May 17, 2022. Changes to those minutes? A motion to approve those 2?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
I'll second.
Thanks. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Item 10, public statements related to agenda items. At the discretion of the Board of Trustees, the public may address the board on non-agenda items and or agenda items. If you choose to make a public statement, you must be present at the meeting and complete the blue request to address the Board of Trustees form and provide it to the superintendent's assistant. Please note that comments are limited to 3 minutes. The board president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public presentation, depending upon the topic and number of persons wishing to be heard. comment is on an item that is not on the agenda, then you will be asked to speak during the public statements related to non-agenda topics at the end of the meeting. If your comment is on an item that is on the agenda, then you will be called on to speak at the time of the agenda item. All right, item 11, union statement. Is there someone from Burlingame Education Association? No? Okay, so now we'll move on to item 12, statement.
Good evening. Good to see you all. I'm Laura Abshire, principal at Lincoln Elementary. And we do have some updates to share. I first wanted to express my appreciation of the teams that helped to deliver the home kits for testing that went out recently from our district office to our maintenance teams, then to the teachers, and then I believe student council was the final last leg of our distribution team, which was fantastic. Those have made a really big difference. Because we're still seeing increasing cases of COVID on site. However, I really think Burlingame, and I'm sure many of the other sites as well, we have found a rhythm in monitoring, testing, and maintaining school and keeping that continuity for our children, which is the #1 priority. I want to say a word of appreciation for the partnership that we have with Central Fire and our local firefighters. I think the diligence of our teams and collaboration in safety protocols lately has been on the minds of a lot of our community, and we have strong relationships and connections in that way. And we see those partners with us, meeting with us, encouraging our schools, and I'm so thankful for their partnership. I also want to acknowledge and thank our mental health teams who have provided their expertise recently in sharing supportive resources as we're all finding developmentally appropriate ways to process hard things in our news and in our world these days. Our students are doing a fantastic job. We are wrapping up our state testing, which is always exciting, and also our benchmarks, which is incredible. Our little kindergartners getting in there with their iReady is always an adventure, but they're doing a great job. I want to thank all of the testing teams and our LCAP teams and everyone who's going through to make sure that we have the data that we need to make the best decisions for our kids and to look forward for intervention and to celebrate progress and growth. It's really critical. We are feeling the work and the energy that comes with summer. Which means that our students are maturing and we are employing those SEL strategies that we have practiced all year. And it's coming along. So I want to say a word to our teachers. So thank you for all the community that you've worked to build in your classrooms and the relationships with your students, because the relationships is how we grow, and we if there is harm, we repair it, and we look at treating each other with kindness and goodness, even as we reach the end of the year and the end of our patience sometimes for our little ones with each other and in these different environments. They're doing a good job. One thing I wanted to say that has come to my mind recently is that what a celebration it is that we are reaching the end of our first full year of instruction in several years. I know, that's amazing. That's so special, because even that first year when COVID came around, we didn't finish that first year. So this is huge. And I think something we need to keep in our minds as we're dealing with our little ones, that this is their first approach to a big break, and the uncertainty that that might have going in their mind of, here comes the big break. I love school. School has been a continuity for me. So just being thoughtful with your kids at home and in the classroom for some of the feelings that they can't always put words to, but might be surfacing. And also just encouraging them. They have made huge growth this year, and they've grown through so much. I'm so proud of them. Our staff is implementing new curriculum like rock stars and choosing new curriculum at the same time. I want to thank our maintenance teams and all our music teams. Our maintenance teams did an incredible amount of work to have all of our spring concerts come together. And so did our music teams. Lots of new equipment and cords and plugs, and it was just and speakers, and it was beautiful. It really was so exciting and one of the most heartwarming experiences of the year. So a real congratulations to those teams. I also want to acknowledge that our current student resource officer, Steve Vega, is retiring this year. So I just want to acknowledge and say, I know he's not here right now, but thank you to Steve Vega for all of his years in supporting us at BSD. We are in celebration mode. We have our party get together on June 8th for all of our staff members at Franklin. Our Founders Day is coming up at our different sites, and our open houses are on Thursday. We're so excited. We recently had Trustee Mudd and Trustee Brown come to visit at our Lincoln School site, where one of my favorite rad raccoons came out of the classroom and asked if I was going to stick one of those things up his nose again. I said, don't worry, not this time. But this chance to come around and see all of our friends and to see how they're working and connecting. And it's just been a joy. So thank you to the trustees for visiting. I have to say to our volunteer teams and our teachers, we have just gone through the marathon of all marathons of getting all of our activities done in about 5 weeks, which was amazing. Our international nights, team night, lion dance, walkathon, open house, our promotion ceremonies are coming up, our makerspace, dandelion garden has been, our gardening teams have been off the charts. It's been incredible. So everyone's exhausted, but I think we all feel so much joy from bringing these experiences back to our students. And I know this is happening at every site, and it's just a momentous occasion and achievement. As we move forward and look to the future, we are so excited to get those TKers all around and out and about and bringing them in. They bring a special energy and excitement that I just love on campus. I know BIS and Lincoln, we're going through our budgeting points. So much to look forward to in terms of elevating our campuses and structures, which is great. Building calendars with certainty. I've never been so excited to make my calendar because I can put dates on there that are going to stay and they're really going to happen. And that's my first experience as a site principal, building a calendar where I can say with confidence that these things are going to happen. Excitement around curriculum. And then just above all else, building belonging and connection at our sites. That's always the priority because the kids are full. If they know they belong and they feel the connection, they're going to grow. And we know that. So as we close this year, we want to congratulate all the teams and collaborative efforts to bring our students back to a full year of learning. I know it's been a marathon. I know the folks in these seats know. I know you all know. But I know that I would not want to spend my days in any other way. So it is a joy and a celebration to reach this point. So thank you all.
Lapshar, all right. So item 13, statement of superintendent.
Good evening, trustees. Short statement this evening. I know that we have a long agenda ahead of us, so I'm going to make things quick. I will echo a little bit of what you're hearing from Principal Afshar as far as the opening of the campuses throughout our community and all of the activities. It's been a blur. There's multiple things every day if you look across the district, and it does feel like we've fit a whole year's worth of activities in 5 weeks, and we continue to do that all the way through graduation day. So keep up and enjoy it as much as possible. I know it's an awful lot, and I really appreciate everybody coming back and the excitement that it creates at our school sites. It's a lot of fun. Also, just being on campuses as we've had spring and the kids outside, and it's warm enough to be outside and run around all the time. It's just really nice. It just makes you feel excited and happy. You can't help but smile. And I know a lot of you have been visiting campuses, so I'm sure you've felt that. So with that said, I'll let it go. And
Okay, now we're on item 14, statement of board members. Let's start over here.
All right. Every time you talk, Laura, I always get teary-eyed. As Principal Afshar mentioned, Trustee Brown and I had the chance to visit Lincoln. It was so wonderful. The fourth graders were doing these build their own arcades, a really amazing STEAM project, and the kids, the classrooms were just so busy and they're teaching and they were showing us all. It was just so exciting to see their creativity all put into place and painting. It was a great way for them to end the year. We also visited Roosevelt and they were prepping for their Teddy Talks, which is student-led TED Talks. And they did such a great job. And like one of them was talking about how to support local businesses and creating teddy bucks for all of the kids to spend at local businesses. That was really neat. BIS, I got to tour for the first time. I toured it last year, but for the first time got to see the amazing science labs, which I had never seen before. They are so beautiful, and all of the construction is just going so well. It's such a gorgeous campus. And personally, I loved being in the art room. The teacher in there had just the most amazing energy. I wanted to like figure out how to take my own art class with her. And McKinley, just so fun. We toured there today, and it's just amazing to see how such a large school can feel so small and like such a close community. And then what was really amazing is just watching the DLI students in kindergarten and how maybe fluent's not the right word, but just how they were able to follow along and see their eyes, just checking neighbors and watching their teachers, visual cues. It's just wonderful. So it's really and then I got to go again to BIS for math. I got to see Miss Bowling pilot Desmos and then Miss Schmea pilot IM. So that was really great. Many of the teachers here tonight have been working so hard on the math adoption. So it was great to see it in action. And just in the PTA council, a lot of community event celebration, and thank you to Ms. Gilbert and the BIS PTA crew who was putting on all of the tours for incoming families. I think everyone really appreciated that. And I wanted to congratulate Florence for being honored by PCE and the middle school musical cast and crew, which had a sold out show, and it was so sold out I couldn't go, but my daughter got to go and said it was amazing. And the band and choir as well, because it was as a parent and a trustee and a former teacher, it was pretty magical to see all of the hard work come to fruition. We at Lincoln had a beautiful evening, and the weather just was perfect, and it was a very kumbaya, sweet moment. Great way to end the day.
Thanks. Great. A lot of good stuff. Elizabeth?
Yeah, so I think we probably have similar things to talk about. There is a lot going on. It's incredible how much has been happening in these past few weeks. It's amazing. It's like everything now. So it's been pretty mind-blowing. So yeah, I went to the Back to the 80s musical. That was so exciting. I actually got a ticket. The spring concert, everyone was melting pretty much, but we were there and it was amazing. And I got very emotional because these students, the fifth grade band students, had been on Zoom, and then they persisted through like this hybrid weird thing, and then they were outdoors like at 7:30 in the morning. Like they were so persistent. They finally got, actually I get emotional, but it's just so amazing. They finally got to do their first concert. Like that was just incredible. And Florence and I sang with the Notebooks. Yep. So we had a concert with the teachers, and you guys could all join. It was very fun.
I have on Jenny Coleman's Facebook page our actual performance.
Oh, what do you know?
Share that on our Instagram.
I have a million dreams into myself. Yeah, at Washington there was Shakespeare and Wham Jam, so we had like the big carnival sort of thing happening. I went to the owners committee with Dan, and we talked about the items that are on the agenda tonight, so we don't really need to review those too much. And thank you to the principals for like humoring us with all our tours. It is so exciting for us to go to the campuses. I'm going to McKinley, Washington, and Hoover later this week, so I really appreciate your being so gracious and welcoming us. And so as my school year winds down, I'm now able to go on the tours too. So, thank you.
All right, so I really have enjoyed the school tours. In addition to the 4 with Lisa, Dan and I went to Roosevelt I started Washington, and so at 5, having never done a school tour with the principal, to do 5 in a month was great. I've always been at it from a parent's perspective. So on that front, attended many great community activities at Lincoln. I think 4 in 1 week, which was amazing. So exciting to see the kids in person and playing together outside with their friends. Attended a VCE strategy session with the superintendent and the VCE team to hear about them, how they're going to close out the year, which was fantastic, and a bond oversight committee meeting as well. So busy month.
I'll just report quickly. I want to thank Assistant Superintendent Silversmith for the JEDI committee and leading the charge on the dress code. We're looking forward to going changes, making proposals next year. Always difficult, a lot of different viewpoints there. I want to thank the superintendent for his leadership in working with the city for housing issues to impact district lines in years to come. Very challenging work there, and it eliminates future problems to have that information. So thank you. And then I want to thank everyone in the district office and the staff and administrators and principals at all the schools for administering COVID tests for the last year. That is really hard to do to a lot of children. They don't stand still, they scream. I've had that problem with my own kid. So it's not fun, but because you step up and do that, we're able to do a lot of these great activities that people have talked about while keeping the community safe. So thank you for doing that.
I don't have much to report. It's been a difficult time for our entire country. We're trying to cry, but to have something tragic happen at an elementary school is really, it hits us close because that's our district. So it's just want everyone to know that we think about that, and it concerns us as well, and try to protect your kids as best you can, and help them understand a little bit of what's going on, but not let that guide everything that we do or that they do. That's not a burden I want our children to bear. So just wanted to say that. Okay. So item 15, board communication.
I just attached the agenda for community review, our letters that come into the board. So there's some in support of outdoor education after our board meeting, where we'd already discussed and gone ahead with that. And there was also an extremely timely letter from the county about our second interim report in February that finally showed up in May. So, so that is on there and attached for your review as well.
It's a good letter though.
It's a great letter.
Yeah,
It's a
you
lot
should
to
read it.
celebrate. I was going to say our budget is finally in good shape. The county is no longer shaking its finger quite as vigorously as. So it's good news.
All right, item 16, business finance. So we need to open the public hearing now. Okay. Open the public hearing for the proposed fiscal year 23 budget. The comments.
No.
All right, so I guess I close the budget or close the public hearing. Now we'll go to the item 16B 2022-23 budget presentation.
Good evening. Tonight we bring forward our fiscal year 23 budget, which goes from July 1 through June 30th. Local agencies are required to adopt a budget by July 1 of each year. The budget reports must include a certification of whether or not the district is able to meet its financial obligations. The certifications are classified as positive, qualified, or negative. A positive certification is assigned when a district will meet its financial obligations for the current and 2 subsequent fiscal years. The qualified certification is assigned when the district may not meet its financial obligations. A negative certification is assigned when a district will be unable to meet its financial obligations for the remainder of the year, the current year, or for 2 subsequent fiscal years. BSD anticipates a positive budget certification and will be able to meet its financial obligations for the current and 2 subsequent fiscal years while maintaining the required minimum levels reserved for economic uncertainties. I'm just going to go slide by slide. Feel free to interrupt at any time. Budgets are prepared based on the latest information available to date. The current year budgets were reviewed to estimate actual revenues and expenditures. For 22-23, the proposed budget contains projected revenue increases, continued one-time COVID relief funding, and additional increase to LCFF funding. These projections are from the governor's May revision and are subject to change with the final state budget. A few things to note from the May revision highlights is the $2.1 billion for the LCFF is included in our estimates that you'll see tonight. The 3.3 billion ongoing and 463 million of one-time for attendance declines, that yet is not in the budget. We will wait for the enacted budget and we need to do a 45-day revise along with the 8 billion one-time discretionary block grant and the 1.8 billion in general fund dollars for school facilities. It's important to note that as I go through the presentation tonight, that the May revision is only a proposal and that we will not find out until after we adopt our budget is if it is in fact enacted by the state. Proposition 98 establishes minimum funding levels for schools. This minimum funding requirement is commonly called the minimum guarantee. The state calculates the minimum guarantee by comparing 3 main formulas or tests. Each test takes into account certain inputs such as the state general fund revenue, per capita personal income, and K-12 student attendance. The state can choose to fund at the minimum guarantee or at any level above it. Test 1 and strong capital gains revenue over a 3-year budget period require deposits into the public school system stabilization account, bringing the account balance above 3%, which triggers the district reserve cap for fiscal year 23. Beginning with the 22-23 school year, the district reserve cap requires that a school district's adopted or revised budget pursuant to educational code shall not contain a combined, assigned, or unassigned ending fund general balance of more than 10%. Assigned and unassigned balances within the special fund for other than capital outlay shall also be included in the 10% reserve cap. It is important to note committed funds in the general fund or special fund for other than capital outlay do not count towards the 10% cap. May revision includes additional TK funding of $2,728. This amount was not included in the original January budget. TK through 3rd grade is expected to increase by $405 over the January budget and by $880 over this fiscal year to next.
Does that mean that TK gets 13?
Yeah, just under 13,000. And that is part of the smaller class sizes, the 2:24 ratio. That's how they're offsetting those expenditures. 4th through 6th grade is expected to increase by $371 over the January budget and by $809 over this fiscal year. 7th and 8th grade is expected to increase by $382 over the January budget and by $833 over this fiscal year. So what you're seeing, the differences in the in the grades is the grade stand adjustment enacted by the state.
May I ask you a question?
Yes.
With the increase that's gone on from the original, for example, the TK through 3, 8,500 to 98, is that proportional to increases we've seen in the past?
So.
That's a rather large increase to come out in the 1 year.
So from fiscal year 21, which is the top, the 8,500 to 22, that was the COLA and the additional gap funding to bring us to fully funded. And then from the enacted budget of 22 to the May, all the way down to the May revision is the COLA. And then one-time LCFF funding that is between 270 to 400 versus the grade span. So that's why you're seeing a bigger jump. Everything else had been projected.
And with this number continuing to increase and with a lot of state and national economic uncertainty predicted in the future, is it possible for these numbers to decrease in the future?
Well, 2 years ago, we thought we saw that when I believe many school districts saw the May revise and their budgets had a 10% negative COLA. So it was a point that did not happen, but at the very least, it's going to fluctuate by the COLA. Right now, those would be the base moving forward if COLA remained at 0.
Thank you.
Okay, here at Burlingame School District, we use School Services of California, the May revision dartboard for our budget assumptions. So just taking a quick look at the COLA in fiscal year 23, it's expected, or it is, it's not expected. The statutory COLA will be 6.65%. In fiscal year 24, it's projected to be at 5.38%. In fiscal year 25, the projection is just over 4%. As you can see, CalSTRS employer rates are going to remain flat for the next 3 years. And CalPERS declines just about 0.75% over the next 3 years. Our unemployment rates for fiscal year 23 remain at 0.50% and then go down to 0.20% in fiscal years 22, 24 and 25, I apologize. And that is still a big increase. Prior to COVID, we were at 0.05%. So they don't expect that to go down for the next 5 to 10 years. Our health and welfare generally sees an annual increase of 6%. So that is what we budget moving forward. It could go higher than that in the out years, and we would just budget accordingly. With expansions of transitional kindergarten over the next 3 years, our district is no longer in declining enrollment. Our current P2 enrollment was 3,367 students. 22-23 enrollment is projected at 3,383 students. So we are seeing an increase of 16 students next year. We project 3,430 in fiscal year 24, 3,483 in fiscal year 25. We will continue to update our enrollment projections with each interim to look for changing trends. Another thing to note here is currently LCFF is funded off of ADA, which in our district is roughly 97 to 98% of attendance. There is a bill in legislature to have enrollment, which would be not a huge change for our district, but it would be the difference of 3383, where right now we roughly receive funding at 3283. Our multi-year projections include LCFF funding with estimated COLA in all 3 years, one-time COVID revenue sources fully expended, categorical programs budgeted as awarded. The final state budget details are subject to change. We are projected to deficit spend $631,000 in fiscal year 23, $666,000 in fiscal year 24. In fiscal year 25, we are projected to have a balance of $328,000. Fiscal years 24 and 25 do not include negotiated salary increases. Here is a picture of our Fund 01 general fund. All of our revenues. Our total revenues projected for fiscal year 23 are $46.7 million. Fiscal year 24, $45.8 million, and in fiscal year 25, $47.9 million. The thing to note here is if you look at our federal revenue and our other state revenue in our out years, we do have a loss of the one-time COVID funding. The district has developed a preliminary spending plan for next year that addresses the following needs: required state and local expenditures, state pension cost changes, inflation, cost of services, TK through third grade class size regulations and local teacher staffing, the expansion of the universal TK program, and spending to maintain the minimum reserve of 10%. On fiscal year 23, our total expenditures are budgeted at $47.3 million. Fiscal year 24 is projected at $46.5 million. Fiscal year 25 is projected expenditures of $47.5 million. This again does not include any negotiated salary increases for fiscal years 24 and 25. The next slide is a picture of the beginning and ending balances of each of our funds. Our Fund 01, our general fund, is projected to have an ending balance of $6.2 million. This includes our statutory reserve of $1.4 million, restricted reserves of just over $2 million, and an unassigned ending fund balance of $2.7 million. Fund 08 is our student activity fund. This is where BIS student body funds are housed. You will see that it will remain flat funded until we close the books at unaudited actual. That will be updated, and then that amount will carry forward through first interim of the next year. Fund 13, the cafeteria special revenue fund, we project to have an ending balance of $100,000 and a committed reserve, a commitment of $231,000 for equipment. Our deferred maintenance fund, Fund 14, is projected to have an ending balance of $119,000. These funds are reserved for major repair or replacement of plumbing, heating, air conditioning, electrical, roofing, and flooring. Fund 17, our special reserve other than capital outlay. Our projected ending fund balance is $7.1 million. This includes our 7% reserve of $3.3 million, our strategic foundation support commitment of $2.5 million, our technology replacement commitment of $350,000, and our curriculum adoption commitment of $971,000. The technology replacement and curriculum both have a year to date next to them. That is, neither of those are enough funds to support our program. So we will continue to deposit into those to make sure we meet our needs.
And do we pull that from the general fund? And
Yeah.
that's what we, the unassigned.
The board can absolutely take action to move additional or move funding into that in order to increase that. Part of our year-end closing in June, I will bring back a resolution that will make suggestions to move funds into Fund 17 that align. So our 7% is correct, and putting into our technology replacement, we currently put in $350 a year. our curriculum adoption is our restricted lottery. So whatever we get for that year. So you will see that resolution next month in anticipation of closing the books in August.
And strategic foundation supported doesn't count as reserves.
No, it is a commitment, because if we are not given the money by DCE, we have already committed those funds by the teacher salary.
So when you look at special reserve, it's not, well, yeah,
So the 17%,
it's just that stuff.
17, wrong district, 7% reserve. It is still a commitment, but in our board policy, it is a reserve. So it actually shows in our tax reporting as a commitment. Okay. Fund 21, our building fund, ending fund balance is projected to be $10.7 million. We have a burn rate of about $3 to $4 million a year of our bond. So we will be looking at selling our next bond at the end of fiscal year 23 or 24. Fund 25 is the capital facilities or the developer fee fund. We have an ending fund balance of $500,000 and a commitment of $2.1 million for construction. Fund 40, our special reserve for capital outlay, has a projected ending balance of $932,000. That is for turf replacement at both BIS and Franklin Fields. They do have year-to-date next to them, but that is not enough funds to replace the field. So that is another option that the board has to commit more funds there. Fund 73 is our foundation private purpose fund. We have an ending balance of $16,000. This is the Osberg Scholarship Foundation. This is another fund that we will not see a change in the beginning or ending fund balance until we close the books and then first interrupt.
The question on the capital facilities funds, it looks like the commitments are larger than the balance. Is that a different time period or?
So this year is the SAC software, which is where we do our budget and our interims and unaudited actuals, just switched to a web-based. The budget was the very first thing that we did on it. So if you saw some of the forms, they maybe looked a little differently. The cash was separate. The system was not allowing the actual commitments to it just would not work. So the $500,000 right now is in addition to the
2.1.
yeah, so it's actually, if you look at the SACS report, it will say 2.6 million, and that will be cleaned up. They think that the bug has been fixed, so that should be cleaned up when it comes back for adoption.
Thank you.
Is that
Yeah.
the same for the cafeteria?
Okay. Yeah. So if you looked at it against the SACS, I didn't want there to look like there was this really large balance that is not actually there. Okay, what's next? At the state level, the governor's May proposal moves forward. The state budget is enacted by June 30th. On the local level, the recommended board adoption of the 22-23 proposed district budget at the June 14th meeting. We will then submit the documents to the San Mateo County Department of Education for authorization. We will adopt the 21-22 unaudited actuals at September 13th. This will be the first time that we knew our true beginning balance of the 22-23 school year. So that's really when we have an idea. First interim is the real picture of what the fiscal year 23 budget will look like. Any questions?
Yeah, first off, thank you for putting this together. I would imagine it's very challenging with these numbers always changing to put something down on paper. I had a question for you about the COLA, and I know the state gives us that number of 6.5, so it's out of our hands. But that number is also different than the common inflation numbers that are reported of 8 point whatever. Could you tell me more about why the COLA is different than inflation?
So the COLA is set by Yes, the Department of Finance based off of income tax.
First, they base it off California CPI.
Yeah.
So the consumer price index of actual goods and services, what they're saying it's going up at. I think what you're pointing out is that inflationary pressures are exceeding what is going to be provided by COLA, and that's true. That does actually happen fairly frequently. The COLA is a permanent adjustment to our funding formula, so it becomes ongoing, whereas inflation and inflationary pressure tends to go up and down over time. So they'll never try to necessarily exceed annual inflation, because that inflation, of course, especially if we go into recession, goes down rapidly. So they're just trying to augment our purchasing power, but you're right in pointing out it doesn't keep up, not at least for this year.
Thank you. Thank you for, again, agree with Dan, difficult to put this together, and I appreciate also being able to boil it down onto one page, like page 9, where we can see the results on 4 lines, looking forward 3 years. So that's super helpful, I think, for everyone to see where we stand in fairly simple terms. I just want to say I'm happy that the numbers are getting so close to balanced. Hopefully, if this, I would presume if some of the good news from Sacramento comes our way, that we can look at 23 as a positive, as a black number instead of a red number, which would be fantastic. My question is actually just, is there anything in here that's, or how much in here for 23 is one time versus in the base? So Chris mentioned, Superintendent Benitez mentioned that COLAs go up. I can, first name's okay?
Please.
The long agenda. That the COLA builds the base so that it keeps going up, each year. We can count on that. But how much on this page 9 is one time?
Okay, so I moved back to the LCFF base amounts, because if you look at the May revision, I talked briefly about a one-time bump in LCFF funding from $270 to $400 per student or per ADA. It looks right now that is ongoing. It's a bump in this year, so it will continue moving forward. That is what they are saying. That has not been made clear. So currently, that is the only additional one-time funding that we have in the budget. We do have some other mandate block grants and stuff like that are one-time annually, I guess you would say. And that's why we are speaking to the likelihood of having to do a 45-day budget revision. We did not include if you look at the 3.3 billion and all of that, there's been word out there from different organizations that it could be 1,200 per ADA up to 1,800 per ADA. And we didn't have an idea, and there's nothing worse than putting that in and then that getting pulled. The other thing that may come as one-time money is that an additional COLA for the year. I know that that's could be an additional 9% or 15%. It's just been all over the thing, and then the facility. So all of these one-time that you see here, we elected to not, we just didn't have a per ADA number to give.
So we feel good about the 24 and 25 projections because they don't include the one time, right? Okay, thank you.
So what's the likelihood? I know that there's some debate in the legislature about how to spend the extra money. I mean, if it's education related, then it counts, right? If there's a push to maybe pay down some of the FERS and STIRS obligations and get those lowered, which would benefit because that's an ongoing expense for districts. I mean, that's possible they could do that, right? Because they haven't actually passed the laws that say there is a base bump. Right, they could actually be lumped into paying down those FERS and STIRS rates.
And I think we did see a little bit of that last year when there was some anticipated one-time money that did not come about to actual districts because some things were paid down.
Right.
So I think that definitely could happen. And I think we will see more on June 15th. We're all just kind of waiting to see what is going. They don't have to vote or enact it until the 30th. But for our district with the one-time funding, it's not been very clear on if we receive it, we may receive it all in 1 year and we'll have 3 years to spend it. Most likely what will happen is the July budget will be adopted, we'll be told you're getting this. And then in 6 months from now, we'll find out how we're allowed to spend it is generally what happens. It seems maybe that's why we're kind of late to doing things sometimes. You'll see the ELOP program was a great thing, the funding hit. It was in the books. We received the money and we're waiting around to find out what you could even use it for. So I kind of think that that may happen. And so we won't want to jump the gun on any quick, and we will need to wait for it.
Right, so
Our cash doesn't matter.
even if they tell us how much one time we're getting, we can't even think of our programs yet because it has to align their deadline.
Yeah, or if they say what it is and when it's going to come, you know, will we get it in January? Is it going to be deferred? I really want to wait for some of that information.
It's part of the anxiety of having to pass a budget before they actually tell us what we're getting. Right? That's just the way the state works. It's basically our best guess based on the information they give us at the time. And then they pass the budget. That might be why we have to come back within 45 days and say, okay, it's changed again.
So our budget deadline is the same as their budget deadline, right? Like June 30.
That's correct. But you all have to approve it before. I mean, we could wait up until
We can't wait. So we have-
midnight of the 30th and try to change everything
I'm agreeing with you.
as it comes out. But what we do is we come up with what they say is the most reasonable assumptions, which is what Amanda bases all the numbers on, because they actually tell us statistically here are all the most reasonable assumptions.
That's why we have consultants. Okay, if no more questions about that, that's information.
Yes, tonight is the hearing. We're required to have a hearing publicly, and then the budget is also available for public review between now and our June meeting, and then the board will be voting on whether they approve the budget or not.
Item 17, consent agenda. So we have a consent agenda, which is quite long, with the removal of item CE, which will happen near the end of tonight's meeting. Did anybody have anything else they want to hold or have a question about something that's on the consent agenda that you don't necessarily need to pull if that's the question about? Okay, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? To item 18, education. Transitional kindergarten update, teacher plans.
Good evening and thank you. I am excited to welcome our 3 current TK teachers up to present to us this evening. Just like for Melanie or Sarah. Follow the arrows.
Is it better for us to?
Yeah,
sit or
if you want to
stand?
sit.
If you want to
just grab
sit,
the
you're more
mic.
than welcome.
Pass the mic off.
Pull it straight, Bonnie. There you go. Perfect. So we are joined here tonight with Stephanie Talbot, who is currently at Washington, Melanie Liguori, who is currently at Franklin, and Sarah Slawski. I don't know why. You think after a year I'd have that down. Who is currently at Roosevelt and will be at Cooper next year.
Oh, sorry, you're waiting.
Can't go yet. Oh, she's gonna put it in present and then you're able to do it in present. No. Do you want me to pull it from this? I'm sure it was that. The fun of toggling between PowerPoint and Drive.
Alrighty, I will start off. My name is Sarah Slavsky. I am currently the TK teacher at Roosevelt, and I will be at Hoover next year. This is my first year teaching and my first year in the Burlingame School District. I got my undergraduate degree in educational foundations and my master's in elementary education.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Talbot. I am currently at Washington. This is my first year. I will be there next year as well. This is my 6th year in the Burlingame School District and 16th year teaching preschool and TK as well.
My name is Melanie Lagori. I am currently at Franklin. I will be at Franklin next year. I have taught for 9 years at the Burlingame School District, so a total of 17 years doing pre-K, kindergarten, and TK. I also have a BA in early childhood education and a master's in general. And I'm also going to introduce on the next slide will be our teammates that are joining us. So we have Leslie Kubisky, and she will be joining TK at Lincoln. She has her master's in education. She's been 1 year in the district and 3 years as a teacher. Kelly Howell will be joining us the TK teacher at Roosevelt. She has been teaching for 5 years, 1 year in the district, and she has a master's in early childhood education. So I'm going to keep going. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the history of TK in Burlingame. So TK started back in 2012. It was a single class at Washington, and the kids that were eligible were born between, or turned 5 between November 2nd and December 2nd. It was just that 1 year. That class is now graduating from BIS as 8th graders, so very near and dear. That was my first class. But every year we added a month in Burlingame. So the second school year we expanded by a month. The third school year it was added. We expanded by 3 months until it was the entirety until the next school year, where we will expand once again. And Stephanie will talk about that. The first few years we did have a half day program. So it was 9 to 12:30. The fourth year and beyond, we transitioned to full day along with the kindergarten classes. Aside from the pandemic year, which put things a little askew in terms of hours. But this year we actually went to extended day along with kindergarten again. So we are going 8:45 to 3:15. The first trimester we were able to go 8:45 to 2:15 to kind of get the kids acclimated to school. And then we expanded the second trimester and third to an entire full day. Next year, the hours are TBD, but there will be 5 of us. So that's exciting.
Right, how TK differs from kindergarten. So the TK curriculum is based on the preschool learning foundations, and it's focused for ages 4 to 5 years old. And it's also focused on the Common Core kindergarten standards. And it is modified to meet the academic, social, and emotional needs of our young little ones. The TK classroom environment provides lots of opportunities for language, social, emotional development through free choice play, and a lot of engaging and hands-on learning activities. Some of our benefits that we see: it provides our students with the gift of time to learn essential social, emotional, and academic skills. It gives kids more opportunities to learn how to positively interact with others and collaborate in both structured and unstructured group settings. The TK children become more independent as they learn to problem solve, and we as teachers collaborate regularly to share resources and improve our teaching skills.
So we're also going to talk to you a little bit about what TK looks like, what would be a day in TK. I'm going to talk about the first part, and Stephanie will talk about the second. So the most important thing in TK in many grades is social emotional learning. We use multiple curricula for this. We use Mochi and Second Step. The Mochi focuses on building the 5 core SEL skills, which are self-awareness, or competencies rather, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. That is a big build for these little ones, but we work on it all year long.
The really engaging part about Kimochi is that it features stuffed animals that actually have feelings and stories, and there are calm down areas, which is an essential part of the TK classroom as well, that there is an area to go to when kids need to regulate or attempt to self-regulate, that has tools. So I wanted to be sure to mention that. The second step also is important, but it focuses on maybe the school readiness skills. And it also covers the skills kids need to learn, like empathy, emotional management, and friendship, problem solving. That has visuals. There is also a puppet, but they are not nearly as engaging as the Kimochi's puppet, which we were fortunate actually to get the expanded set to. So we have every single Kimochi that has been created today. Character, I should say. And then students get the opportunity to practice these skills throughout the day, I mean, just naturally, and with their peers, with us throughout their school day. It's especially important during those free choice times, during recess as well. But SEL skills are also practiced during academic instruction, and it's very cross-curricular in nature. Right, so along with the social emotional learning skills that we do focus on academics as well. Our literacy curriculum, this year we started the benchmark Ready to Advance, which included thematic units and built the foundational literacy skills. We also use Michael Hegarty. It's a phonics program that really helps build those pre-reading and pre-writing skills for our youngest learners. For math, we use kind of a variety of curriculum that we have created amongst the TK program. Some of those are everyday math, engagement boards, one, a teacher made scope and sequence. As TK or UTK is evolving in our state, there are more math curriculums that will be coming out. We didn't really want to jump the gun and just choose one. So we are looking, we will continue to look at math programs and see what would be the best fit for our learners. TK students do receive special classes, just like the kindergarten students, specials including PE, music, and library. We get the exact same minutes that the kindergarten students do receive. We do a lot of content area, science. We use Mystery Dog. Next year, we will start Inspire Science and give board approval. We have social studies, which is Let's Find Out. We do a lot of visual and performing arts, lots of songs, lots of art throughout our classroom. And then our assessments, students are formally and informally assessed 3 times a year. It is a report card that was created when TK started. It was from the county. We kind of worked with the county to build that report card. And they are based on the preschool learning foundations and the kindergarten Common Core standards. So where we're going, Universal Transitional Kindergarten, or UTK, will be another one for us to remember, is one branch off of UPK, which is Universal Pre-Kindergarten. That is the overarching umbrella from the state, and there are a lot of things that fall under it, including Universal Transitional Kindergarten. Others include Head Start, state preschool programs, and private preschools. So the goal from the state is to ensure that all 4-year-olds will be eventually receiving quality education prior to kindergarten. So how UTK will roll out, kind of like how Melanie's explaining how transitional kindergarten rolled out. Next year, our birth date range will expand. So we will allow students to enter that have a birth date between September 2nd and February 2nd. The 2023-2024 school year, it will expand to September 2nd to April 2nd. 2024-2025 will be September 2nd to June 2nd. And by 2025, all students who have a 5th birthday by September 1st, will be enrolled into transitional kindergarten. So we will be getting them younger and younger, and it's a very exciting time for us. A little bit more about how it will look. So based on our enrollment for next year, we will have 5 inclusive classes all throughout the district. Our ratio will be 12:1. So that means 12 students to 1 teacher or aide. And then pending state funding by the 2023-2024 school year, it'll drop to a 10:1 ratio. Again, that's pending state funding. We will be partnering with Champions to offer up to a 9-hour day for our students. And the eventual goal of our district is to have a TK at every site with the proper facilities. Some things that include bathrooms in the facilities, large enough classrooms, access to entry and exit points, playgrounds, all of those things. So we are working a lot with Marla and with Tim Ryan which is, it would come from the capital improvement plan. So we are excited to see this expansion and how it will roll out in our district. As the students will be coming in younger and younger, we will become more heavy on the play-based curriculum and play-based instruction. And this is really developmentally appropriate for how our learners will be. This county is putting on a TK Institute, which is TK through, I think, 1st grade that can attend. So they are really supportive of this change and really wanting to help educate us as well. The state has done a great job providing resources for us. They have websites. They've offered bi-weekly drop-in hours where you can go. They've also done a ton of webinars to really educate anyone who is involved in this transition. I think that's all of mine. We can open it up to any questions.
Before we open it up, I just want to reiterate, I want to go back to curriculum. So you all had the chance to participate for science and math, and Melanie, you did science with Drone Marcus.
Yeah.
And you did like the Inspire, so you asked to join on in Inspire. And I know Stephanie, you met with Kim for math, and there just wasn't a math at this point. So you said at this point you'd like to stay kind of with what you've done homegrown for TK at this point, but still continue to work with county as they develop more TK to look for a really good, strong TK going forward, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. There, like I said, that it's so new, and even like with SWAN, when we were really heavy with SWAN, it was a kindergarten and a little bit of preschool. So TK isn't in every state. It's unique to California, but it is expanding. There just isn't a lot out there right now. And like I said, we don't want to, there are a few curriculums out there, but we don't want to just jump into it just because it's there. We want to really dive in and see how it kind of plays out.
So we'll continue to partner with you to look for the right curriculum throughout next year. And once you find one, we'll come back to the board. They'll pilot the 5 TKs. We'll pilot, find something that they like, and we'll do a TK official adoption for that.
Questions, Helen? Well, I had a question, but I think it would be actually for Silversmith because it's about the kids who are not in TK. As it starts expanding more and more and more, they'll just be like, you want some kids who haven't had it? This amazing program. It looks awesome, wonderful. So what are we going to do to like support those?
So we'll continue to do like step up. So we have the students that don't attend preschool or don't meet the criteria in the summer. That's something that we've actually found extremely successful. I have to say that our principals have actually really liked that too in the summer to help come out and look at students, as have our kindergarten teachers. So we'll do that. We also partner with local preschools. So we do a lot of work with our community partners and our educational partnerships throughout. And we have really strong partnerships through our student services and special ed department anyways. So we'll continue to meet with people through them, through those partnerships. But yeah, I mean, there is always an age, there's always a cutoff, right? And there's always going to be a cutoff. There's always a start age for school. And we do get parents that call all the time and say, what about, can I just have a couple more, my kid's 4 days short, is there any way, And so we do work closely, Amanda's partner works really closely with Parks and Rec, so we do talk about what is out there. And through our educational partnerships, we always try and offer other things that are available, that are appropriate. But because they're private, we can't just give one name, so we always offer like, here's a menu of people that we know are aware of, but that is something that we do work through.
And Champions does also offer, I don't know if that's
They have
putting a
preschool,
name
you're
out there,
absolutely right.
but Champions does offer a preschool program.
And we also do have a preschool at Roosevelt, it's an inclusive preschool, so we do have a recreational side, so they do, if they do have students that are preschool age, they are able to attend Roosevelt on a general ed side too.
Thank you for the presentation.
I have two questions. Could you help me and tell me, if a parent were to ask me, what is the difference between TK and preschool? What should I say?
The spelling. They're spelled different.
I do disagree a little bit. Sorry, I'm hogging the mic, but preschool can be very heavy play-based, where transitional kindergarten was a bridge between preschool and kindergarten. So we do, at the beginning of the school year, we really focus on the school readiness skills. At the end of the school year, we can all tell you we have readers, we have writers, we have students who are able to solve problems on their own, we have students who are able to engage in play and develop empathy for others. So preschool, it depends on the preschool, but a lot of them are heavy on the preschool side and not so much the school readiness for kindergarten. Now, when we transition to UTK, we are kind of evolving ourselves too on how that will look. We can very well have kids who are still that TK age, how TK originally was. But like any teacher, it's our job to differentiate, right? And provide those needs of where they are and what they need to get them into kindergarten.
Thank you. And then I had a question for Assistant Superintendent Silversmith. Sorry. How are we notifying parents about this? And I'll give you an example. I met a family the other day that has a child turning 5 in March of 2024. Or no, yes, March 2024. And they were very excited because they just got their child into a 2-year preschool and they have an older sibling in BSD. And I said, well, have you considered TK for the academic year beginning in 2023 for the March 2024 baby? They said, I have no idea what you're talking about, because TK is only September through December. And I said, well, if you do TK, you could also use Champions, as pointed out, for the full day. They had no idea. And so I'm just wondering how we were going to reach out to the community to let them know.
Right, so we've put it on our social media, we've put it on our website, it's been in newsletters, and we will continue to blast it out. And it's probably time that we redo it again, especially now that we know it'll be at 5 schools. I think there's a new excitement. I will tell you, we're actually pleasantly really surprised with our enrollment numbers for TK. I think that surprised us all as we talk about it in staffing and enrollment weekly meetings. So that's really exciting. I know our teachers are excited every time they have like, how many are we up to now? So when we rolled the 5th class, we were like, we're at 5 classes. So it is exciting. And I think that we're ready to push another one out that we can start to do through our social media campaigns and everything else. But as much as we try to do that, and we ran it through different outlets and through partnerships, but we're always open to more ideas too. But I think that there is that new family component. So those partnerships are something we're always looking for too. If we have other ideas. And we've done it through the San Mateo Daily Journal. We ran kindergarten days there historically. Like we should do. Right, so it's registration on our website, it flashes there, but I'm trying to think of like.
So this family wouldn't be till next academic year,
Right.
2023. So I'm just pointing out that a lot of preschools are 2-year programs and people sign up when their child's age 3, not realizing that when the child's 4, they might be able to switch to TK. Just to think about.
Burlingame Moms Club.
Yeah.
So, in Parks and Rec will always advertise for us as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think the city of Burlingame has a newsletter. It would probably run something for us.
That's great, thank you.
Any more questions?
I don't have a question, but I do want to thank you guys. So as soon as we found out this was real, and I said to Marla, oh my gosh, it's real. And you know, you could have said no. I didn't imagine when I said to Marla, you gotta get in touch with Stephanie, you gotta get in touch and with all TK and see if they'll help us plan. And it's a lot of extra planning. Melanie and I don't know you as well. I remember these two ladies from last year. We would meet occasionally, and I just want to thank you because you could have just said, figure it out. But I knew that you would want to be involved, and I just wanted you to know how much I appreciate that. Other districts we talk to, and they're like, "What are you doing for TK?" And we have an idea. We have staff for next year. And we have curriculum in place, and we have classrooms identified and schools identified, and they're just starting to hire teachers. And so I'm really, really proud of that. And a lot of that is because you partnered and it was important too. And I really appreciate that. Thank you.
And to add to that, we definitely appreciate the collaboration as well. We follow a lot of blogs too, or groups, Facebook groups, and the same thing we're kind of hearing is like, what is your district doing? Or our district hasn't even talked to us about it yet. So we do appreciate that collaboration.
Actually, my comment and question were sort of similar to what Chris was saying. I wanted to just publicly appreciate that creating your own scope and sequence is a lot of work, and requires a lot of extra time that I'm sure you're doing outside of the classroom. And so my question then is, I think Engage New York is somewhat similar to IAM, which is going to be adopted today. I think it's interesting that the state rolled out TK without Common Core standards that are given to you to help with your systems. Is that what's coming? I don't know who that question is for.
There actually are TK standards
Right.
that are kind of a blend of the preschool learning foundations, which I think Sarah talked about on that slide, 40, particularly 48 through 60 months, and the Common Core. So there are giant books full of the standards that we then apply.
Curriculum to
No,
purchase.
not a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
So Inspire has, does have a benchmark test, but the NOC programs are a little bit behind. I know where to go, or the publishing.
Right. Yeah, I was looking it up when the agenda was posted to see if either of the curriculum or document had.
So imagine this has been promised for a year. It's exciting because we are adding a grade level, right, for the first time since the 1950s. And it's been promised. We know it's actually best to start at 3, and this has been something we've always said is important, and the state always says, but we don't have money for it. And now we're doing a whole new grade level. So there isn't a lot out there because I don't think it happened quite as intentionally as it should have. It happened when basically our enrollment in other grades is going down enough that there's enough money left over for the state to say, hey, we can add this grade level. I wish they would have made that commitment before. It was just like, right, happy circumstance. I'm really excited that it's happening. I wish they had done it a little bit more intentionally a couple of years ago, instead of leaving us constantly wondering.
But this was such a great presentation. It'll be exciting to watch next year.
Thank you. Thank you. 18B, approval of science and math instructional materials.
It's so nice to talk about education.
A nice switch.
It's great. Some
COVID
big
for 2
smiles.
years.
All right, math and science, come on down. Ms. Ziegler, are you gonna come join us too? I know you have thoughts. You're welcome to join. We can pull chairs. I know you're here to support you.
Here, somebody grab the mic.
Joe, do you mind grabbing the mic,
Yeah, totally.
please?
Certainly. I know it was, but that's the way.
All right.
Yeah.
We had a large committee, so it's not even, as trustee Wong and trustee Med can attest, this is not even half the people. So I'm gonna go ahead and we will start by introducing, so.
I'm Joe Smendy. I teach 7th grade math at BIS.
I'm Allison Ziegler and I teach 8th grade math at BIS.
And also sometimes algebra.
Sometimes algebra. In the past. I'm Danielle Bowling. I'm an SAI teacher at BIS.
SAI is resource support for students with mild and moderate disabilities. Sorry. You're okay.
Allison Ledford. I teach 3rd grade this year. This is 5th grade at Franklin. And I was on math committee.
So far, that's all math.
Yeah,
math.
math.
Like the transition. Erin Kerr, I'm currently a TOSA at Lincoln, longtime upper grade teacher.
And she was math and science.
Yes, she was
both.
both.
I
That's
do
why
both.
she's in the middle. It's like a Venn diagram.
I'm Catherine Zanino. I'm currently teaching 5th grade at Franklin.
And she was science.
And I was, sorry, with background in science.
I'm Katie Booth. I'm a 6th grade math and science teacher at BIS.
And I'm Becky Glover, and I teach 5th grade, and I was on the science committee. And just as on an aside, I taught Sarah Slavsky in 5th grade. I was 12, but she was a brilliant.
Yes, Sarah is born and raised Burlingame.
She's my girl. Little girl.
Great. All right. So I'm going to go through the slides quickly so that we can get to the fun part, which is really our experts here that will talk to us. So this is the framework of the California development and adoption of K-8 instructional materials. And then we've overlaid the Burlingame adoption. So you will see where the framework is being developed or has been developed, and then where we have adopted materials. These are our 4 cores. I am proud to announce that Burlingame, pending board approval tonight, will have adopted 4 main core materials, K-8 in the last 2 years. So ELA, history, social studies last year, and math and science hopefully this year. So congratulations to all these teachers. All right, so on our instructional materials adoption, we had for science 3 administrators, 9 elementary teachers or specialists, 3 BIS science specialists, 2 parents, elementary and middle school, and a board member. For math, we had 3 administrators, 3 elementary teachers or specialists, 3 BIS math specialists, 1 BIS math SAI ed specialist, 2 parents, elementary and middle, and 1 board member. We also had supports from San Mateo County Office of Ed, experts in the area of both science and math to help guide us. Okay, so now to the meat and the potatoes of the fun. So our science selections. The elementary is bringing forward tonight the science selection of Inspire Math. That is going to be for TK5. Grade 6-8 are bringing forward Amplify. 6-8 has been using Amplify and piloting at BIS for the last couple of years. Tonight they're bringing it forward for board approval to be used with integrity going forward. Inspire Math, elementary is asking for it to be adopted TK through 5th grade. You will see attached the request for elementary TK5 is an 8-year request. Part of the request from the team was to have kits to be replenished for the next 8 years. That was a big concern, was the replenishables and the time that it takes for that. Amplify, they requested predominantly digital access for middle school. They will have some workbooks, but not very many. They really like the digital for students transitioning from whether they had home hospital or in class, whether they had independent study or anything else. They really felt like the kids' digital access was something that they wanted. So adoption committee for science, why don't we start with elementary? If you could walk us through your thoughts. I will let you know for the science committee, trustee Reed or ex-trustee Reed, who's in the back, started with us. Thank you, trustee Reed. And trustee Wong finished out for us as the board members on the committee.
She did, and she was there everything. Is this on? Yeah. So Inspired Science. What I loved about the process is it was authentic, and we, pardon my pun, we really dissected Well, it's true. We looked at 3 programs very closely and broke them apart. And we were not in love with them. We felt that they were text heavy. They would have been challenging for teachers to use. We were trying to look at the first-year teacher versus the 37-year teacher. But what we were hoping for was a balance of text, because we know that nonfiction reading is so important, but also to inspire, pardon that too, but to get them excited about science. And we did not feel the 3 met those criteria. So we really appreciated, Marla, that you and Daron let us look further at other programs. And we had to do a really quick dissection because we were running out of time. But we were able to pilot both of them, Inspire, and I think I was yes. And I was not enamored of Hoot Mifflin. Again, it was a bit text heavy. My students liked one of the experiments, but then they noticed that they were not as rich as they could have been. And so I wanted, Catherine, you want to talk about Inspire?
So I can add on a bit to that. My class and I, we piloted the Inspire program in our classroom. So we were able to have about 3 weeks worth of curriculum. And so we had started a completely new unit. We had planned it to where that was the start. So we weren't comparing one to the other. This was a fresh new lens for a whole new domain. Bless you. And so we were able to see with our Earth and Space Sciences, it started out with a lab that we were more apologetic to our custodians because we were lucky to drop things into flour to understand the crater impact, which it said online it would not create a mess. And 33 humans and I proved that wrong. But one of the great things is just getting to see the and the wow. And Inspire isn't just a program where we turn on the TV or we open the computer and they read about it. It's where we introduce a phenomenon and the students get to say, I've never really thought about it like that. I don't know. Why do we rotate around the Earth? And then when they're saying like, oh, wait, we're not doing this. We're actually doing this around the sun. And just getting for them to understand the big picture and to have multiple resources to experimenting with the standard rather than just reading, I printed a paper, you're going to cut this, you're going to paste this. We, within the piloting program that we did for the 3 weeks, we included reading, we included writing, we included differentiated levels for reading. We made graphs, we looked at different things. Also, that would say for Inspire, there's opportunities for cross-curricular instruction for ELA with our benchmark, or that kind of also ties in with social studies because it's the McGraw-Hill. And so it's getting to understand that platform. It wasn't something that was brand new to them where they were more familiar with using that online interface. And so it wasn't just something where we were starting from scratch again. It was able to kind of build upon some of their previous knowledge. So it gave them opportunities to really dive in and, to quote Becky, to dissect kind of what we liked about this, what we didn't like. And they also loved at the very end that they got to have more of a review process to say what they would have improved, what we could have done differently. And so Inspire really just gave them the opportunity to be scientists and to learn through mistakes and then to learn through what was accomplished, learn through how this applies in other areas, that science isn't just isolated subject. So it really gives them that chance to excel. And as I was talking about with Becky, it offers differentiated instruction. And so for the students at their reading level, you can kind of also make that with your reading groups for guided reading, because we know how important small group learning is with students. It gave them the chance to also, for the students who might have difficulty with written expression, it gave them the chance to draw. It gave them the chance to identify with graphs. So it really just allows all opportunities for learning inside and outside of the classroom. And so that was something that we had discussed with our committee that we had noticed not only through 5th grade, but I believe 3rd grade and kinder had also piloted this, and it was similar experiences that we recognized.
And if I could piggyback on Erin, she did both Inspire and Hoop and Science. And when we were planning together, I was with mine going, how do I make this interesting for my kids? And I kept looking over at what Erin was doing, and I thought Inspire was more intriguing to me. And I was looking and I was a bit jealous that I didn't have Inspire for you. But I love what you said.
Erin, is there anything you want to add from having the littles real quick? And then we'll go to middle school.
So I did 3rd grade for Inspire, and I would just say, again, doing a grade level that was not necessarily my comfort zone. It was a program that I could just pick up and teach pretty readily, which was great.
I think that's important too.
Yeah, and I think that's very important, especially considering, you know, that we are adopting 4 programs in 2 years. Making sure that they're teacher friendly is important.
And then just, I'm sorry, really quick, just to finish and add on what Erin was saying, it is I'm new to our district, but I'm not a new teacher, but it was really comforting to know that I had opened Inspire to go on the computer and to assign things or to print things or to access anything online. It's the very similar interface on the teacher end as our social studies and our benchmark. So I hate to say, like, I know that education isn't about selling, but if you're going to sell this to another teacher to say, yes, but you've already opened that through benchmark or through our impact, thank you, through our impact, it kind of just helps it helps more for the buy-in for teachers to feel a lot more of your self-efficacy, like, oh, I can do this because I'm more familiar with X, Y, and Z, rather than just thinking, oh, maybe I'll get to that next year.
Another program, yeah.
Yes, I echo what all of you are saying. They were great programs, especially for elementary school, but as the middle school teachers looked at their middle school curriculums, we just noticed they were not as strong in both like scope and sequence, rigor, content. And so we decided that Amplify was something we wanted to stick with and continue with. Not only its scope, again, like they have really clear year-long sequences, and they have really good step-by-step lessons. They have a whole digital format, simulations, and print handouts as well. And it's just been something that we think is best for a single subject, especially 7th and 8th grade teachers. You know, that has a lot of content and a lot of phenomena. The 3-dimensional NGSS standards are all there. And we also thought it's a really easy program, we believe, for new teachers to come into as well.
I'd also like to give a shout out to BIS science teachers, because you should have seen them picking apart the elementary
Yes,
science
they were great.
curriculum, because they're like, these kids are coming to us, so we want to make sure it's really good.
Yeah, and on top of that too, we think it's kind of exciting for kids to start a new curriculum in middle school rather than staying with a curriculum they've done for like 6 years already. Kind of like what's fun, you know, some kids are like, we're still doing that, you know. So I think it adds like a little bit of like excitement, like, oh, we're doing a new.
Any questions about the science curriculum? Trustee Munn.
So Inspire is McGraw, and then our ELA is McGraw, is that right?
So our social studies is McGraw, but benchmark, impact, and Inspire all have crosswalks, so that they have multiple points where they share everything.
So you are able then to make sure, like, you can, if you wanted to do this, you could make them all connect.
They have built-in professional learning that we'll talk about too. Yeah. Any other science questions?
At first I thought Amplify was just for the 7, 8, so we're doing 6, 7.
6, 7, 8. We'll have Amplify. I'm turning mine on. Sorry, I watch it on my screen too. All right, Erin, do you want to start with math?
Yes. So math, I will say, first, I really appreciated the process. I think we all did. I felt like we thought it was a really authentic process. And as you see, our recommendation is a kind of unique split. We had K2 and then 3 through algebra with 2 different programs. So I will also say that I think we're all really excited about both these programs, which I think, you know, sometimes when you do these adoptions, you have to make concessions, but I think not to lead the jury, but we're very excited about both these programs. So I will speak to iReady, which was K2. And as I mentioned, I am very much an upper grade teacher. But Marla gave me the opportunity to pilot
She
a
sounds
kinder.
very-
Kindergarten.
Yes. So I was part of the K2 team. And I will say, so, and the K2 team, like I said, it was very excited and passionate about iReady. And one thing can testify to, it is a very teacher-friendly and I would say student-friendly program. Teacher-friendly in the sense that I, again, as a 4 or 5 teacher, was able to pick up a kinder textbook or kinder teacher edition and feel like I could open it up and walk into the classroom and teach a great lesson, well, a pretty good lesson, without an extensive amount of prep. So I think that was a big selling point. And then also student-friendly. I think the K2 team felt like this was a program that understood how this age group interacts with math, right? There were, you know, things that seem small, but when you're doing them are big, right? Like the number of questions on a page, the number of questions on a test, the amount of like that there were some small check-ins, right? That it wasn't just one big assessment. So those were sort of big selling points of iReady.
Hi, I'm going to talk about illustrative. I'm not sure what I am. And like Erin said, the upper elementary 3 through algebra is really excited about this program, and we actually voted on it unanimously. We're thrilled. I just want to talk really quickly, and I'm the person that makes notes. And I'll pass these around. But the very first time we met for the math committee, we came up with these posters talking about student beliefs, like what we wanted students to believe in themselves as math learners, to be confident in math, to know that they can do math. There's not a math brain and a non-math brain. That math is fun, that math is everywhere, and that they're problem solvers. And we kept these posters up and we went back to them every time we were looking at the programs. And I do feel like both programs really meet these themes that we focused on throughout the whole year. We also talked about mathematical behaviors, really talking about language, communication, proving your thinking with words and models, and growth mindset, and having everything be really hands-on. So those are some of our focuses. And then we have the big ideas or concepts of math, you know, number sense, language, estimation, connections, spatial recognition, like geometry. So those are all the things we're thinking about. At the end of the whole pilot, after I piloted iReady and then we piloted I Am Math, the 3 through 5 is who I'll speak to, really felt like I Am Math created the very deep conversations around math. So not only peer-to-peer, but whole class conversations. There were gallery walks that we created, students created posters. Like part of their math lessons are doing really interactive talking and creating. There were shared problem solving activities. So you're not just in a workbook or working next to someone, but you're actually, there's sometimes when you're swapping math books and like collaboratively working on projects, which was really fun. The centers were progressive. So you might learn a game. One of the my kid's favorite games, number line scoop. You might learn that in first grade and you working on it with guessing whole numbers. By third grade, we're working with fractions with building wholes. So you could also dip back if you needed to, and help a learner that needed some additional understanding, or maybe look to the later grades if students needed some additional challenge. So that was exciting. We love the pacing. So it, unlike previous programs, this feels more like you're a facilitator versus the person at the front telling everyone or showing everyone what to do. You're sort of more facilitating exploration around that. So that was really exciting. And again, that more fun and game based. And then one other thing that we really loved were the warm-ups. Every single lesson starts with a question. One of my favorites and the kids' favorites was which one doesn't belong. So you're looking at 4 things, and I have one here as a number line. No.
Oh, she
fine.
just made it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're number lines and they're all different and they're all easily accessible to say like, well, I can tell that this one, someone has good knowledge, like this one's broken into 4s versus 8s. Or someone could be like, this one has no tick marks on it, you know? So it's approachable for any style of learner. Every one of my class was engaged in them, which is really fun. Everyone has an access point to the lesson, so that's really nice to see. And then the last thing I brought, and I'll just pass this around, is one of the very previous or recent, activities that I did with my class, because I'm after the pilot, I'm still doing IMF for the final unit, and we're wrapping it up. And we just are learning about perimeter and area. And not only were we working on it in groups, we got to then build perimeters and areas, create a collaborative class poster, and then we all analyze them together and talk about patterns that we're seeing between certain shapes that have the same perimeter and area and certain ones that don't. So just really engaging and really exciting. Why I think grades 2 through 5 unanimously were really excited to choose this program.
So for 6, 7, 8, I think some of the things that was just mentioned that we were really looking for is to elevate the discourse in our classroom, making sure that students who can explain their thinking can't just explain the answer, they can explain it in many different ways. Are they taking a evaluative approach? Are they taking a real deep approach to what kind of questions? It all starts with those kind of intro warm-up things where we looked at through the math committee, our different demographics here at BSD, trying to understand that we don't just have one singular type learner, where is more of our learners at, but where is all of our learners at? And finding that we're looking for a curriculum that allows for all students in our classrooms to be able to participate in that elevated discussion, not just our smart students who like to participate and show off their thinking. We want every single student to feel like they have something to share. So that role warm up, I love the ones where it's like, when ones that don't belong, a lot of them start off with simple questions of what do you notice, what do you wonder? And it's hard to not have an answer for that because you just notice something really simple. It's just on the page. And that could be the entry point to where if someone really does have that deeper thinking or deeper explanation they want to share out with the class, that could be what they're wondering. But what did they notice that someone else didn't notice? Because there can be many different answers to that question. Limiting math to just a very objective answer is a trap that I know I've been in education for a long time. That's how I've stopped education. It doesn't have to be that way. It can be subjective like humanities. So looking at that lens, I am math was really accessible in that way to all students. It created great discourse, at least in my 7th grade class and talking with my colleagues in their classes as well. We felt that the questions also went more towards the bringing the concept wider rather than just going deeper, because if students found that they had the simple answer and they got it on the page, well, how can you take it further? Because the question doesn't just end once you found one answer, because there's multiple correct answers. And as deep as you wanted to take it, or as wide as you wanted to take it, is as far as they wanted to put it in. And I found that when you gave them that opportunity, our students just ran with it. And seeing that that was their enjoyment and being able to share their ideas in that way. A lot of positive feedback just from talking to my students. They really enjoyed the curriculum. Another thing to consider just with the IM math is also with the Common Core thinking, the higher order thinking skills. They're ever present because the curriculum that IM is based off is actually the people who wrote the Common Core standards. So knowing that it came from a strong place, I really put my faith in that for the few, like about the month when I went through it with that program. And I can honestly say my 2 years of teaching, it was the best program I've worked with math. And I would be thrilled if I could continue to use it.
You got the science committee excited.
I would agree with Joe, and just to go along with it supports different learners. One thing that I found very helpful with IM is that it really went in depth with the different ways you can solve a problem and not just one specific way. So I know I had been teaching that myself with SWAN because I really wanted them to understand there's not just one specific way, but IM does open that up with the discussion piece and going deeper into the thinking behind how they got to their conclusion. And one thing that I noticed with the curriculum was that it really scaffolded throughout the lesson and throughout the unit, rather than just giving you a problem and showing an example of how to do it and then expecting kids to do it. So it really had them thinking about how they were solving it and then discussing it together as a class, which I really enjoyed. One thing I do also want to touch on, which is kind of more of the logistics side, is that yes, it does go all the way up to algebra. So when we are ready after next year to bring algebra into 8th grade, IM does have curriculum for algebra. And with our different pathways of 6, 7, and 7, 8, IM already has accelerated curriculums for 6, 7, and 7, 8 as well. So that's also very nice for teachers. With the planning side, it is a little bit more prep for teachers on the middle school side, but we are okay with that because it's benefiting the students. So we love that.
Danielle, you're left.
Danielle, you can just say ditto.
You don't have to.
I'm like, well, I mean, I have to say, I mean, I agree with, first off, I have to say, I agree, Erin, what she was saying is, this was a great opportunity. I've been teaching at BIS for 15 years. This is the first time I've been through this committee, and it was so much fun, and I learned so much. So that was fantastic. So thank you for that. But I'm on the special ed side. So I teach the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Yeah, I do the math for special ed. We follow what the general ed does, but I have to say with IM, it was my students loved the program because of the discussion. There was a lot of time for them to turn and talk. And that's also very tough for my kids to talk. If they don't have, they don't know what to talk about, they're like, what, so I have to say with IM, I provide a lot of sentence starters. So I'd say we have the warm up, which was the warm-ups were great. We got discussion going, but then I would steer their conversation with a sentence starter, and conversations just went, it was great. My students loved IM. They loved the problems, they loved the discussion, they loved the opportunity. IM also provides, which is helpful for all learners, different points for checking comprehension. So it's already in there where you don't have to just, stop and assess. It's already kind of built in, and everything goes so smoothly. It's not choppy where you're teaching lessons and then you come to your test time or your formative assessment part, and it's something that's not been talked about. This is very fluid. It's been taught. They know the language, the vocabulary terms. So in a special ed aspect, in my world, this was a great program. This is a wonderful program. Out of the 2 that we piloted, my students love this program. So from my standpoint, I enjoyed it.
I forgot to add one more little thing. On the other side of our learners who are great at math, I found that some of them were commenting to me like, with the "Are you ready for more questions?" if they're already done. They're like, "Wow, this is hard," and they found it more rigorous than what we have been doing. So they really enjoyed the challenge that I gave them. So I felt like that was super important too.
Any questions for our math committee or anything that you would like to add, trustee Mudd, because you were on the committee too?
Just one, that was so, I loved working with you and that was just a great presentation. Is it also a nonprofit company, right? So there's a financial.
Correct, it's open source,
Right.
so it's considered open source, so it is a 1-year buy, so it is $25 per student, so it's a 1-year buy. That's why you'll see that it was not as expensive as some of the other ones.
I got to observe and it's really.
We heard some awesome student voice when we went there. They were very opinionated in the middle school. They did very much like I am. Isn't it?
So I just want to say thank you to all of you. It's tough adopting and getting us back up to date curriculum, which we had neglected for a long time. But just the fact that all of you said it was authentic and that it was engaging, which is what it's supposed to be. You were supposed to be choosing what's best for you and our kids. And to hear you all actually talking about education with smiles and getting excited, feels like that's been missing for a couple of years, right? And so thank you for engaging that. I really appreciate it.
I wanted to say the same thing, like, this is amazing, like, your enthusiasm just like, is so inspiring, and this year has been another rough year, right? To be like, this is just, I know this is a lot of time that you guys put into this, and even though it was exciting, it was a lot of extra work, and just really thank you for doing this. It's like amazing that we're gonna have these adopted curriculum, that you're all on board and sponsoring. And thank you to the board members for going. I was sad that I couldn't be part of the team, but thank you, Florence, for stepping in, and Kate, and yeah. Anyway, thank you so much.
More questions? Okay, so 2 more quick slides. So professional learning, we will do it back to school on the 22nd and 23rd. We will also have October 10th. October 10th will be the crosswalk day. So benchmark, science, and impact will all be coming together and we'll be doing a crosswalk day. We will also have summer learning opportunities where we will be giving virtual links where they will do it by grade level. So if Allison has 3rd grade again, they will say, Allison, here's 3rd grade summer links, should they choose to do it. And we'll work with them on daily rates for Amanda Bonner, where they can go in and they can sign in and be able to look at stuff too throughout the summer, which is really cool. And then ongoing learning opportunities, there will be grade level meetings, and then Wednesday half days, which we did pre-COVID, where they'll get to come together as their whole grade level district wide and work. And then we'll work with BIS on opportunities too.
Oh, nice.
So the monetary components. So Inspire for elementary, again, that's an 8-year adoption, including all consumables. So every spring they will get all of their consumables for the next year. Unless somebody's stealing their cotton balls for 3rd grade, they will have them. So it's
Yeah. We had that problem.
well, it's 871,300. You guys can see that. And then Amplify is 93,615.83 for 8 years. iReady Math for 8 years is 414,093.89. Algebra for math, I know. I'm not the math, I'm not the CBO. And for the grand total of 1.466277.75. Round up. Okay, she'd like me to round up for 1.5. Anyway, and then this does come out of our general fund, our restricted and unrestricted lottery. And this is where, as Amanda said earlier, we do put money away so that we have this adoption. Some of these are 8 years. Again, remember the free through algebra is a 1 year. So that will get updated every single year. There is also the games for IM math are not included in here. There's a component where we'll be purchasing. There's games for each grade level that is not part of the curriculum. So that will come in June once we have that. So this is just the straight curriculum. So there's a supplemental component that will come to.
Physical games or
It's math games that Do you want to talk, they'll get all their faces light up and talk about, they all talk about these games, math center games that they all loved. Erin,
Yeah, the
ready?
committee was made up of a bunch of math nerds, if you can tell. Yeah, so the games, like I said, are really great, and as Allison pointed out, build up through the years, right? So they build a language of certain games.
And they're hands-on, Erin,
And,
versus.
and yes,
That's
and,
what I.
and hands-on, and something I love, because I did pilot both, that I would add to the IM column is that what math looked like, if you looked in the classroom, it would look like they were just having fun and playing games. And I think, you know, the kids especially would probably also think that, which is kind of amazing and great. So.
The only other thing I want to say, I'm so excited to hear that you're going to consider purchasing those kits, because that was the biggest con of this program. It's all the teachers, and it is a lot of prep to like print every sorting game, print every game board. And you know, you print them out and you cut them out and it's fun, but there's nothing like, I don't know, something that feels a little more substantial. So that's really exciting that we'll have that opportunity. I think that's like the icing on it.
All right, so that is our ask tonight, is for the board to approve these 4 programs going forward.
Okay, if there aren't any more questions, is there a motion to approve the science and math instructional materials?
I'll make a motion to approve. Just trying to see. So I'll make a motion to approve 18B for both science and math instructional materials.
I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Allison, do you want to leave the slide? Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, thank you.
All right, we're moving on to 18C, Jedi annual report.
All right, typically, good night, thank you, thank you. So typically the annual report for Jedi comes in June, but we are very excited that in June of this month, we're going to be doing our reclassification of our fluent English proficient students. So that will be our June report. So we are doing our annual report in May, just to recap some of the exciting things that we have been doing this year. So during the 2020, 21 and 22 school year, Jedi's, and Jedi isn't just a club, it's actually the district. It's the work the district's doing with regards to justice, equity, diversity, inclusion. So it's not just people that come once a month to talk about what we're doing or what we want to do. It's every department, every principal, every person that's a part of this community doing work to make sure that we're removing barriers and making sure that we're supporting every student that's either underrepresented or overrepresented, to make sure that we're taking care of spaces to help support students. So we continued our meetings of open dialogue amongst district leaders. We presented at school staff meetings to recruit new members. We continued with our district LCAP goals, which you'll hear about a little bit later tonight. We continued with affinity groups for families. African American Student Organization met last week, and actually BIS students came, and it was pretty heavily attended. The students ran a Kahoot, which was actually really cool, and a lot of parents, and we had parents that actively were asking Amanda how to fund stuff there to continue it and do more. And how to expand it. So that was really exciting. We are tentatively on the calendar for an AAPI meeting on the 7th, and our CDAC continued, and we're continuing to look at how to expand that. There's still a really large interest to look at doing a parent and family group for LGBTQIA+ groups. So we're continuing to partner. We worked with Champions for scaffolding pricing for families that need. We procured at-home COVID tests for families and provided pickup at sites for families that needed for convenience. At-home tests, as we know, were hard and scarce in the beginning, and they're very expensive for some families. So we continue to make sure that every family that needs an at-home test gets access to one. Board meetings are live streamed on YouTube, and we provided also language links and supports for people that needed translations for those. We discussed and reviewed board policies, and we even added student voice to some of those with dress code. And we're continuing to do that. We've actively participated in curriculum adoptions, and we made sure that there was an equity lens. HR continued to present on staff and student demographics in comparison of progress. Equity in the staffing ratio for unduplicated student counts. So we continue to look at places where we need to tweak our ratios to make sure that we are supporting students. We reviewed barriers for our music electives, and we made changes for access, and that's continuing. That's actually really exciting. If you remember, we had BIS went and did the traveling band shows at all of our elementary schools, and our instruments are already getting collected and cleaned for next year, and we already have seen an increase in students wanting to do stuff. We are currently looking for music teachers and support to go to work and support at summer school, at our summer programming, because that's where a lot of our UPP students are. So how can we get instruments in the hands over the summer and kind of start that younger and earlier too? We built partnerships with our local community college to help build our diverse workforce. We created more network opportunities with smaller online colleges whose primary student targets are working professionals. We made recruiting more diverse staff a priority. We built transparent and accurate data regarding district to publicly support our Board of Education and show everything to everyone. We increased the number of gender neutral bathrooms. That was a big one. Those were very scarce when we first started. We increased the number of, we researched and purchased inclusive furniture. We improved our accessibility paths, and we did a diversity audit of our school libraries. Yeah, believe that. We pulled some books, so we added some books. So that's where we are right now, and we will continue to work on that as we go forward. You know, it's every day it's something new, and it's looking at where we are and reflecting and going forward. And I think the biggest thing about JEDI is it's a community, and we're all in it together. It's conversations, and it's continuing to work and see and have somebody say something to us and say, oh, I didn't think about that. And so we just keep talking, and it's something we talk about in cabinet constantly. So a lot of proud things we've done this year, and a lot of things we look forward to doing next year too. Any questions?
Very inspiring to see that list.
Where are we at with having a committee that would keep?
We have not yet included parents. There are some parents that are actively starting at school sites, like smaller school site committees, working with principals and
then maybe through different special interest groups.
Right, and through special interest groups, there absolutely are, like through FAP. So there's parent groups through LGBTQIA+, there's parent group through CDAC. Obviously, we have parent groups. But there isn't an actual JEDI parent group yet. It's more through like student groups, student or affinity groups. We have parent groups. But not so much through JEDI yet.
At DAC committee, were the site council reps actually saying that their site councils were working along on this too?
Right, a lot of the site councils through their SIPSAs, through their single plan for student achievement, through their school plans, a lot of them are working through that area, because that's really where like your LCAP is built around that. So their school site plans are built around that. So that is where a lot of them are working to a lot of the groundwork.
We also made the decision, I just thought about it as Marla asked me to review this and add to it, and we were working on it, and I forgot when it was really obvious, the board removed all requirements for access to home.
Right, yes.
So that's one of the reasons that it had gone away. Yeah.
We've also removed all he, she language. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, but it's like, we forget it unless we talk about it too, so.
Yeah, we just do it, and then
We do it.
do the next step.
We need to keep a list and just keep adding to it.
Well, it's nice to be in a district where doing that is non-controversial.
Right. Absolutely.
We're sounding like it's a natural thing, but it's not.
You're
natural
absolutely right.
everywhere. So kudos to us. All right.
Self-celebrating. We like that.
That's right. So thank you for that, Marla. Okay, 18D, public hearing for the LCAP plan. I will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to comment about the LCAP? Okay. So happy here. We've never seen you. Just kidding. All right, I shall now close the public hearing. All right, we'll move to 18E, the local control accountability plan presentation.
All right, thank you. CBO Amanda Bonnevert and myself are here tonight to present our local control accountability plan. This is our first draft read. And we write this, fiscal and educational services write this together in partnership with the district and all of our educational partners. This year we did our educational partner feedback survey. Typically we have historically done this in Thought Exchange. We did it through a Google survey and we actually received 1,074 responses. Typically we get about 500 responses. The interesting thing about this is we've always asked for 5th through 8th graders. 87% of our responses were students this year. So our principals did a great job of getting our 5th through 8th grade students to respond. The other interesting part is we will publish this survey. However, because it was done through Google, we have to do a lot of redacting with that 87% of student responses, redacting by hand. So we will be redacting and then we will be publishing it for the public. They will be coming out. This is the breakdown of schools. So you can see that BIS was very active with over 700 responses, which was great. I mean, they had a lot of very active thoughts they wanted to give us. There were some great ones. Amanda and I I'm sorry,
When were they doing that, like during advisories?
no, I think they actually did it during humanities, is what we were told. We used to always do it during science. We pick a class that we know they all have, so they can do it in science as a one-to-one device because of Amplify.
Oh, okay.
So we always try and pick a class that we know that they can hit. It was interesting. So the first question that we asked was, what is BSD doing well? Communication came out so strong. They loved the communication that BSD has done. They were very happy with COVID protocols, teachers, free lunches, they love immersion program, social emotional learning, they said clean schools, they love the new curriculum, enrichment programs, music and physical education, and construction were the big ones that came out. Yeah.
Sorry, this is everybody, right?
This
It's
is
not just
everybody.
the
So what we
students.
did is we looked through it. So we have an LCAP committee that meets just to make sure that CSEA, teachers, administrators, and we meet and we look through it, kind of redacted version where we pull out some stuff and we look for themes. So we take the codes and categories and I look at themes, like overarching themes.
See a theme, it's probably related to things.
Yeah. But I will say that lunches was all over it. When I said to Amanda, I'm like, what's going on with lunches? It's like everybody wrote about lunches.
Good and bad.
Good and bad. Yeah, you'll see that thing pretty big. What can we improve on? Mental health supports. That was very clear mental health supports. You know, they were thankful for mental health supports. They want more mental health supports. They want more access to mental health supports. And it wasn't like, you know, like you would see the word bullying every once in a while, but it wasn't like specific things. It was just mental health. So, so that was very profound. That came out very clear, mental health, which that is not a surprise for those of us that are in the field of seeing those reports or those concerns come in or working with mental health collaborative, because we've heard a lot about that. So mental health came out very clear. Math, science, I'm glad. No, you're fine.
On this topic in particular, are you able to pull just the student responses and see if they're identifying as needing mental health support?
We can. It wasn't so much like that type of it wasn't so much like a cry for help for mental health. It was some of the words that they were using around it.
Okay.
Counseling, friendship group, like some of the 5th grade girls stuff were some of the things that they asked for. Yeah, well, I'm sure not. Yeah.
But if I have to bet money, it's the children asking for it, not their parents.
That's what I'm
Exactly.
curious about.
Yeah. And so the other thing we've done is it's being looked at by a mental health team collaborative too. So we've pulled out information to give to different groups to also follow up with.
Are these topics ranked in order or are they just topics?
No, just ranked in themes, correct, not in order. Equity, diversity, inclusion came out big, especially around LGBTQIA+, that came out very clear. And just support, increase in community events, that came out big amongst BIS and parents. So that's the other thing we're looking at is themes based in categories around that. Increased grade level time, that came out big with teachers. They want more grade level time together. Support to vulnerable families, that came out with students. So, behavior supports and lunches again. They really want to talk about lunches.
This is so great though that you got those students.
We got a ton.
We were talking about student voice, right? And you did it.
Oh, it was 87% student voice. I mean, that's huge. We couldn't have gotten more student voice. So the three most important things over the next 3 years. So again, there's more than 3 here because more than 3 rows to the top. Mental health and behavior supports. That was really clear. That's not a surprise to any of us that have been in the schools. Math, science, curriculum, great. We did that. It's fine. Feels really good to say that. Differentiated instruction. That's great. That's something that I think is a priority to everybody in this district right now. Equity, diversity, inclusion, absolutely another priority. So what we did is we take all this feedback from our educational partners, and remember when we say educational partners, it was principals, CSE or administrators, CSEA. So our support staff, our teachers, our students, community members, we did have community members, so that could be anybody that has access to Chris's newsletter, so went out in Chris's newsletter can respond. There were not very many community members, but there were some that did respond, so they can respond. So then we have to look at what our current plan is and see what the substantive differences are. So the coordinator of assessment was unfilled for a significant portion of the year, 6 months. So that was a $70,000 savings to the district. So we have to talk about that in our LCAP. So that's in there. And there was a huge increase in professional learning academy costs. We had a lot of people that wanted to learn this summer because we had in-person learning, which is great. So we had a lot of people attend that. Some of these came to you at the mid-year LCAP review in about February when Amanda and I presented on that. So some of these have not changed. And $91,625 was unspent due to hiring more teachers that had clear credentials. So we budget for new teachers. That's stipends and information for. This is your slide. I don't even know. It's a funny slide. It's yours. You were just gonna let me talk.
You're doing a great job.
No.
Once you get started, it's.
I know. Oh, I'm all excited talking about education stuff. Yeah. 91,000 unspent due to hiring more teachers with clear credentials.
Okay, so increase in professional learning for students speaking English as additional language. We had $11,000 unspent there. Increase in English learner educational specialist time. We also had a decrease there in $10,000. We increased them. Oh, that's right. This one we definitely spent more. Yes, that's right. Sorry. It's that extra.
Spent more. We had more.
Sorry, red in parentheses. We had an increase for the RTI specialist salary and benefits. 56,000 unspent on summer learning. Increase in school psychologist salary and benefits of $106,000. An increase in spending on FDL curriculum of about $30,000.
That they mentioned the emojis. We ended up buying a lot more emojis. Our kids needed a lot more support for SEL, and our younger learners, we ended up buying them. We were having them share the stuffed animals for emojis. We really realized every class we did their own this year, so we did increase that. So that's why you see the increase there. So going forward with our LCAP, we changed it to, we had consumables for math. We actually have a math adoption. So we changed that over in our professional learning plan that will be supporting our adoption. And then we also have, we're really excited that, some of the good things that come out of COVID, some of our specialists and teachers have some really cool virtual options for training by some really high level specialists for tier 1 and tier 2 and tier 3A. So students that need specialized interventions or instruction, a little bit higher level, or that might have a 504, so like tier 3A, so even higher level, they'll get access to virtual opportunities. So they're going to be able to train from the beach, if they're on the beach this summer or wherever. So we're excited that we're gonna be able to give them some, a little bit more training options this summer. So we're able to re-document some of that this year. Also with the new ELA, ELD and history, social studies curriculum, we are also gonna support training for that in their second year of adoption. The new special education teachers working with mild and moderate populations will continue to be trained in Wilson reading programs. And we're also going to be training another person in the higher training level of Wilson reading, which is a program specifically for students with dyslexia. So we currently have one person with a very high level of certification for Wilson. We used to have two, one person left the district. So we're going to have a second person with that higher tiered level to be able to provide very discrete support for students that have dyslexia. So we're very excited about that. We'll continue with making math real training, offering that to RSP, RTI, and we actually have a couple general education teachers that are taking us up on that offering too. And we're going to further implement SEL curriculums across the district and build our tier 1, tier 2 SEL curriculum, and also our behavior supports. So we have one school that's completely been trained in zones of regulation, and we're continuing to increase that support along with other supports around calming and sensory supports for students that might need that. So that completes our first read of our LCAP. Amanda and I meet with the county tomorrow to review the rest of our LCAP. We've already been signed off on by the special education program. We will meet with fiscal and their educational services department tomorrow. There will be changes that they asked us to do, and then we'll bring it back for a second read June 14th for you all.
Any questions?
Yeah, I was wondering how about the science professional?
So science professional learning, it doesn't, because our LCAP goals are specifically around task scores, which are ELA and math. It falls into other areas, so it's not necessarily in the LCAP, but it does happen. It's not necessarily specifically in the LCAP. We actually talked about, do we put it under ELA because it is kind of grading based? So we played around like where we could put it in, but it would fall into like other components, like, so Title II is our professional learning, or Title IV is STEAM. So it does fall into other areas, including like general fund ledgers, but it doesn't necessarily go into the LCAP. It does happen, but it's not here. In 5th and 8th, yes, but it's not listed in our LCAP because there's not a goal specifically around just 5th and 8th grade students. Good question.
I should have emailed you this before, but would you be open to telling them about making math real?
Sure. So Making Math Real, yeah, I just told about Wilson. I'm sorry, I should have done that. Making Math Real is a program by an author named David Burke, who's out of Berkeley, who specializes in dyscalculia, or students that have processing around math, similar to dyslexia, but it's an area with math. And he has kind of written a program and instruction and intervention around supporting students with math that has been found to be successful. And we have some teachers trained in it in Burlingame, and our students have we have some students that have had some real success with it. He has some interventions like the House of Nines for teaching multiplication tables that students have really been able to catch on quickly with. So as we've built interventions around reading, we've tried to look for really strong interventions around math. It has been something that our teachers and our students have had success with. So one of the things about COVID is with going to virtual, he's always said you have to go to his office and train there. With going virtual, you're now able to do it via Zoom.
And that would be offered via the RSP.
It's RSP, RTI, and then we also have some general ed teachers that have heard about it through it's getting around San Mateo County more and more. So we have some general ed teachers that have asked if they could train for it to be able to do intervention groups at their school sites, and we have said yes. So we are providing that too. Yeah.
That's the first read. So thank you, Marla. 18F, Board Policy Administrative Regulations, first and final reading.
So we are bringing towards Forgot I was still talking. We are bringing forward tonight, this is a new format for us. We are bringing forward thank you. Multiple regulations.
Start wearing your glasses.
I can't, but then I can't see when I look up at everybody. Two on Title IX sexual harassment or sexual harassment complaint procedures that we are updating, 5145.71 with it along with an exhibit. Ours are updated and we need to bring them forward. That includes the layout of reporting, investigation, and billing components. We are also bringing forward 6142, which is sexual health, HIV/AIDS prevention instruction. That needs to be updated for our district. These have not been updated in many years. The difference between board policy 6142.1 AR and BP, where it does say through 12th grade, we will be striking that language out and ending it through 8th grade. So that is one change that will be made for the final read tonight going forward. Are there any questions? So what going forward from now on, it will be our table with our short component, and then we'll have our backups behind too.
That way, much more updated and appropriate.
Appropriate, yes.
Yeah. Anybody have a question about? Okay,
So then like at future meetings, we just always be updating a couple at a time like this.
Interesting.
We're going to be aggressively updating.
Okay.
So a couple is a understatement.
Oh. Okay. And then I was wondering, is this the format? This is a very, very minor thing. It's just kind of hard to read. Is that the format? Color. Like, it's just very, very small. And
I mean, you can increase the size on your computer
for sure, but then it gets so wide, they have to like scroll back and forth.
So it is the format that it comes in standard for us to work
So
on.
I'll just get used to it.
So the red lines, you can see what's being deleted, and then the highlighted green. Can we modify it anymore without having to do every single one by hand?
Okay, so that's just the way it comes.
That's the way CSBA has the program
I
format.
just thought if there was a way, all right, that I can figure it out.
Yeah, I think that's why I asked. If there was an easy way to just click it and change it, but it sounds like we'd have to do it all by hand.
So it's just- Thank you.
I do appreciate though, the red and green is very clear. for
Yes.
me, like, this is the
That's
one
why
we're
it's not
going
that
with.
way.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Right.
So I touchy subject, and so I want to say this.
So you're preparing yourself. You're sitting
I know.
in the chair.
Put my feet together. I am so happy that we're updating the policy, and I'm glad that we have changed the wording to sexual health instructors. And I also wonder if we can make it slightly more explicit and in sort of creating some qualifiers around the training or what the definition of a sexual
So you're referencing for the record 6142.1. You're referencing paragraph.
1, 2, 3, where it says sexual health instructors, and we strike through.
Delivering such instruction and self-instruction.
I have never been on the board when we've had any changes. I don't know if this is possible, and I would want to hear from other people, but I personally feel that it would be beneficial for policy to have some sort of parameters. Whether it's, I mean, at one point I had sort of written something that said prioritize hiring a highly qualified conflict defender with an expertise in sexual health and wellness. My personal feeling on this is just that it takes liability away from the teachers and it protects the students.
Trustee Matt, did you look at the administrative regulation where it says use of consultant or guest speakers?
Well, wait, so is it not the
Board policy is more general and go that
the AR?
that's
That's how we're supposed to.
yeah.
Wait,
That's
so
the how
which is that one? Because I was looking,
it's the regulations.
I was looking at the other one. Where is that, Marla?
It should be right to the right of it. Oh, I'm sorry, towards the
Oh,
bottom, it says use of consultants or guest speakers,
Is it highlighted in pink?
in green at the bottom. It's new language.
Page 7.
I just wonder if that might
Yeah.
meet your definition
It does.
question.
Yeah, thank you.
And to answer your process question, so anytime that the board's looking at policy or administrative regulation, you can make edits during the first and final read. Or if we move to 2 reads, which is a bit more cumbersome because we have to do every one over 2 before the meetings, it's a little bit more. But yes, you can make suggestions or edits prior to approving, assuming, and then you move it with the changes. So for example, you'd say, I'd like to move it with the change, with the following changes to language, and then if you get a second.
Okay. So I feel comfortable.
And trustee Matt, the reason I like that language is it also talks about curricula accessible to persons with disabilities, which is really important.
Thank you.
Any questions? Is there a motion to approve with the one edit adoption to the grade 12 to 8?
I'll move that.
Okay, is there a second? Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, 19A, resolution recognizing May as mental health awareness month.
So trustees attaches a resolution recognizing May as Mental Health Awareness Month. Wish that we could have brought it earlier to you, but our board meeting this month was at the end of the month so that we could accommodate the budgeting process. But I didn't want to let it pass without doing it because mental health has become such a topic as related with the past couple of years. I just didn't want to let it slip by. So, with your indulgence.
Would anyone like to read it? Especially since it was floated to the top in our LCAP survey.
So this is resolution 2021-22-22, recognizing May 2022 as Mental Health Awareness Month. Whereas the Mental Health Awareness Month has been observed in the United States since 1949 with the purpose of raising awareness and educating the public about mental illness and reducing the associated stigma. And whereas mental health is essential to overall well-being and mental illnesses are common and treatable. And whereas mental health problems can affect many areas of students' lives, reducing their quality of life, academic achievement, physical health, and relationships. And whereas more than 37% of students over age 13 with a mental health condition drop out of school, the highest dropout rate for any student group. And whereas 22% of children ages 13 to 18 will experience a severe mental health disorder at some point during their lives. And whereas reducing stigma around mental illness is an important element of strengthening supports and services for student mental health. And whereas school-based mental health services help address barriers to learning and provide appropriate student and family support. And now therefore be it resolved, the Burlingame School District proudly proclaims the month of May as Mental Health Awareness Month in recognition of any student or staff member challenged by mental illness. Burlingame School District stands ready to support you.
I move to pass resolution 2021/22-22, recognizing May 2022 as mental health awareness month. Is there a second? Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. 19B.
19B trustees are just some updates to some legal language and vocabulary for 2 board bylaws, revisions per the attached chart.
Any questions about it? Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
20A, human resources approval of CDUS waivers for substitute teachers.
Good evening. Every year, we bring forth to the board for approval a CBEST waiver, which allows anyone who has a bachelor's degree and is willing to sub in school district to have the CBEST requirement waived so that they can sub within our district. It also allows them a year to see if they like the position and possibly take the CBEST and hopefully. So I bring to you today the approval of the CBEST waiver for the 22-23 school year.
Questions? So we need to approve this. So is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor? 20B, declaration of need for fully qualified educators.
So this is a declaration to the CTC, which is the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing, that there are an insufficient number of certificated persons who meet the district specific employment criteria for positions listed on the attached form. This is a high estimation. This declaration will remain in force for the 22-23 school year. And this declaration is only in anticipation of need. It must be on file with the county office and the Commission of Teacher Credentialing should the need arise.
All right. Any questions about this? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve 2020 declaration of need for fully qualified educators.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Thank you.
Right, we're down to item 21, public statements related to non-agenda items. There are none presently. Okay, so now we'll move to item CB that was pulled from consent. And that was to discuss the board meetings for January 2023 to June 2023.
Right, what was the number?
It was CB. I printed it. Oh, thanks.
Okay, so there were two things. One is just that I don't think I'll be available for April 11th, so that's more of a heads up. If we wanted to move it, I understand one of the board members need to be here for a forum. And the second thing is we have one meeting on Valentine's Day, and I would think we would maybe want to move that from the holiday. I would propose we move it. I understand that February is very complicated. I think we could meet on a Wednesday. Could meet on a Monday. I'm just saying. Yeah. So yeah. So I would like to suggest we not make everyone come in.
I think it was so sweet that you all still. Okay, I will indulge you who celebrate that still. Okay.
I was actually hoping to keep it so I didn't have to do
Well, you just said that on.
it. I know, right there.
Your wife is not watching.
Okay, so is there an alternate date that you would propose?
I don't know. I mean, I think that you said that was very crowded. in
Well,
February.
so there's a holiday week, which we try to avoid so that people can be with their kids. And it really is up to the board. So if you'd like to post a date, so for example, I would just say Monday or Wednesday. So if you'd like to say would be Monday, the 13th or the 15th, it really is up to the trustees. Typically, our direction is the second Tuesday of the month unless we propose a different date.
Yes, I would say I propose the 15th on Wednesday.
I could do that. How about you all? And then
Works for me.
you want to make a motion?
So I'm hearing the 15th.
Is the 15th work for
So,
Steph?
yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah. And so now we just need a motion of the dates to be approved with the amended date of February 15th instead of the 14th.
Did you also want to take a look at an April date too, though?
I mean, I would, that would be great for me, but I understand it. That's just for me.
Is it just that day or is it?
It's not this week.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's
that whole week.
So I think that's not.
Did anyone else have a problem with April?
I'm impressed that you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So
No, it's
I'm
okay.
not that far out, so.
Yeah.
All right, I think that'll just be maybe when you miss it. Yeah, okay. All right, so who would like to make a motion to change the board meeting date? February.
Okay, I would make a motion to approve. What was it?
You're approving the slate of meetings as listed.
Yeah, 17C.B as listed, but moving the February 14 date to February 15 instead.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
who seconded that one? It's hard with the math.
Thank you. And trustees, we do have a quick change. I noticed Amanda pointed out that there are two folks on consent item D with the wrong start dates. And if we don't revise it, it could make a break in service, which is not what they need for the retirement benefits. So I need to remove item DD with Principal Rick Yee as a start date of July 1, 2022. And Preston Ma with a start date of August 9th, so that neither one of them suffers from a break in service for benefits purposes.
Sorry, could you say that again? Preston Law is what date?
Preston Ma will be a start date of August 9th, 2022. And Rick Yee will be a start date of July 1, 2022. All the others will remain the same as listed. So I would ask the board to re-motion and approve that item with those two changes.
All right. So just for item DD, with the amendments that Chris mentioned, is there a motion to approve that? 17. Yes,
Yes.
17D.
I'll make a motion to approve 17.
Second,
I'll second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, so we're down to 22, board requested items. We have discussion on ways to include students board work. So
Yeah, those are actually both heard already. So my apologies, I didn't catch that.
nothing there so far. Does anyone have items they'd like to add and see if there's other board members who'd like to hear about it as well?
That's right. Flying right at me.
I don't have any.
We're getting that presentation on literacy already.
There were two items actually. That's why I don't know. We've somehow reverted back to old items. There's supposed to be a presentation on early literacy, as well as a request for Principal Gilbert to present on activities for the 7th grade. No, it was 7th specifically. I don't know why, but that was the request from the board.
No,
That's.
It was 7th and 8th.
No, 7th specifically. Was there request activities. You could modify items that that or it was.
I think Dan.
My recollection. My recollection is asking for 7th and 8th grade.
Sure.
Is that other members understanding?
Well, they're all recorded. It was 7th specifically, but we can certainly modify it to be 7th.
Okay,
It doesn't matter. If you want 7th and 8th, you can just.
I did,
modify it.
and if I did not speak clearly the last time, then I did not make that clear. That is on me, but yes, that was my intent, to learn more about 7th and 8th grade trips.
Great.
So board requested items is the early literacy presentation, and the second one is the BIS 7th grade activities. Great. Okay.
Yep. Sorry that we're back to the old.
All right, so that sounds good. And then. Number 23, okay, we're going to be moving back to closed session. To do Chris's evaluation. So, closed session.